Lymphatic and immune system. 11.1, the lymphatic system. The functions of the lymphatic system are to absorb dietary lipids. There are some lymph capillaries called lacteals in the digestive tract that absorb dietary fat. But the primary function of the lymphatic system is to return tissue fluid to circulation. We saw in the previous lesson how water is forced out of the capillary beds and accumulates as tissue fluid. If this is not returned to the circulatory system, we get a situation called edema, which is swelling caused by tissue fluid accumulation. Also, as that tissue fluid is being returned to the circulatory system, it can be filtered. If there are pathogens or toxins, anything that could be harmful, the immune system can recognize those as the lymph is being filtered and initiate the immune response. The lymphatic system consists of lymph vessels and some lymphoid organs. Do not confuse lymph vessels with blood vessels. The circulatory system has blood vessels in a closed circuit. Recall the lymph vessels are dead end, little tiny capillaries. They are dead end. They have valves, and so the tissue fluid can be forced into the lymph vessels. At this point, it is called lymph, and it is different from blood. It is different from blood plasma. You can see in the diagram here that the lymph vessels are distributed throughout the body. They merge into larger vessels, and eventually that lymph enters the circulatory system in the subclavian veins, which then merge with the superior vena cava. You can also see in this diagram the distribution of lymph nodes. These are encapsulated structures that occur at the merger of lymph vessels, and we'll look a little more detail at the lymph nodes in just a moment. In addition to the lymph vessels, there are some lymph organs. We saw in the diagram just a second ago the lymph nodes. These are small structures encapsulated with connective tissue. Inside these lymph nodes we have lymphocytes, which is one of our types of white blood cells. These can filter that lymph fluid, that lymph tissue, and so the lymph nodes act like a guard post that can respond to pathogens. This is really our, many times, first opportunity for the immune system to respond to a pathogen. Swollen lymph nodes usually signal an infection. There are high concentrations of lymph nodes in the groin, also in the armpit. So, for example, if you have an infection on your hand or lower arm, you could have swelling in a lymph node of the armpit. That is the immune response to that pathogen. The tonsils are also lymphoid organs. These are found in and around the pharynx, the throat. They contain tissue similar to the lymph node, however they are not encapsulated in connective tissue. This is the first opportunity for the immune system to respond to pathogens that may gain entry through the nose or through the mouth. The tonsils act like little bacteria traps. There are structures in the tonsils which are called crypts, and as the mucus drains down through the pharynx, any pathogen that's present in that mucus, as it flows back into these crypts, comes in contact with the white blood cells, the lymphocytes. Occasionally, an individual can have a chronic infection. Some type of bacteria, for example, might get caught back in these crypts, and the immune system can't quite kill it out, and so it can cause some recurrent infection. The spleen is another lymph organ. The spleen filters the blood. It removes debris and worn-out red blood cells from circulation. The thymus gland is another lymphoid organ. The thymus gland is located along the trachea or the windpipe. It's very prominent in children, and it shrinks with age. The function of the thymus gland is in the maturation of a specific type of lymphocyte called a T lymphocyte. Bone marrow is also considered a lymphoid organ. or a lymph tissue, this is the site of origin of all blood cells. There are stem cells in bone marrow that can divide and become all different types of red blood cells and white blood cells. In young children, the red bone marrow, which is the type of marrow that produces blood cells, is found in most all bones in children. As we age, most of that red marrow is converted into yellow marrow, which is primarily fat. And in adults, there are only a few bones, the bones of the hip, for example, that contain red bone marrow. Here's a diagram that shows the location of these different organs: the thymus gland, the spleen, the bone marrow, the tonsils, and of course lymph nodes that are distributed widely throughout the body.